gentlemen, we had, formerly with Fox News, Eric Bolling, economist, good friends with Trump, now with CRTV. We had Eric Bolling in studio. And he was going to come on about the economy and about how Trump's ideology is making America great, standing up to big corporate bullies. Instead of the media saying he has no soul. But Bolling wanted to virtue signal to the mainstream media and say, aren't you all right? They're racist. And I'm like, that's a Hillary Clinton talking point. And, oh, you think the government did 9/11? And I'm like, yeah, the 28 pages, criminal elements of our government allied with Saudi Arabia stood down. I've had Senator Paul on. I've had Congressman Jones on. I've had former deputy directors and former heads of PSYOP of the CIA on. This is a well-known animal. Doesn't mean radical Islam doesn't exist. And he just was like, no, I can't believe it. You know, there were real people down there. Yeah, we know real people died. Real planes flew in. All I'm saying is if you go look at the evidence of Building 7 or of BBC and CNN reporting they were going to blow up Building 7, 47-story building. That happened. Later they said it never happened. So the point is it needs to be investigated. And it turns out within days of the event on 3 different shows, then real estate mogul, now President Trump, said he thought there were bombs in the buildings, and his engineer who helped build the World Trade Center thought that. So Bolling was here, and I would mention this. He goes, oh, you don't have the clip. You know, I don't want to just hear it. Well, guess what? Now we have the clips, and here it is, ladies and gentlemen. Here is the report. I get blamed for every conspiracy theory that some crazy person made up.
I said I do not agree with you that the U.S. government, someone inside the government, had knowledge of the terror attack prior to the attack.
Oh, really? All over Twitter yesterday, mainline leftist sites celebrated and said America deserved it. Reality Winner had a top secret security clearance and was helping ISIS. There are so many. The average professor at UT down the street loves 9/11 and says America deserved it. There were elements in our government allied with radical Islam that helped them carry out the attack. Just like they're covering up New Mexico.
Alex, you can argue whether or not America deserved it or not. I don't think
America deserved it.
You don't.
I'm saying the left is cheerleading it.
Wasn't your theory, Alex. Your theory was not only did America not deserve it, but the United States government knew about the attack prior to the attack and decided to stand down. A very different theory.
I don't want to spend all our time on 9/11. It's not that I'm running away from it. It's that the media misrepresents what I say about it. I believe Islamic terror and radical Islam is one of the #1 threats on the planet, probably #1. I know that there are criminals in our government like Brennan, who reportedly converted to Wahhabism. Obama helped launch the Arab Spring to overthrow our allies in Egypt, you name it. And I think that elements let this happen, like PNAC wrote, to let there be an attack to end up taking our liberties away. And I've got FBI was warned about flight schools. That's CBS News. FBI knew al-Qaeda pilots were training in the U.S. ordered to stand down. ABC News. State Department lapses aided 9/11 hijackers. Then they had the airlift of evil, flying tens of thousands of al-Qaeda fighters out. Our military was ordered to do it. I don't blame our military. They would say, oh, you hate our military. No, I love our military.
The bin Laden family was whisked out of the United States by President Bush himself right after the 9/11 attack. And they went back to Saudi Arabia, correct?
That's right.
When you had the World Trade Center go, people were put into planes that were friends, family, girlfriends, and they were put into planes and they were sent back for the most part to Saudi Arabia.
All I'm saying is there is a radical Islamic alliance with the left, and there are people in the government working to protect Islam. They got this imam that's connected to dozens of bombings. After 6 months, he's being released from British prison next week.
Well, you said some things that I agree with. I believe radical Islam is the greatest threat to the United States, our freedom, maybe even the globe. I'll agree with that.
Maybe the left's bigger, though.
Well, I think the left is a different type of threat, and it's a longer-term threat where, you know, radical Islam could, you know, kill a lot of people real fast. And the left, it's going to take a while for them to take over and take away our liberties and freedoms.
But I think we can deal with a straight-on attack like radical Islam. It's the left creeping around.
I don't like them either. I'm on board with that.
Well, this is video on screen of them saying Building 7 has already fallen. Have you seen that video?
No.
And it's right behind her.
Well, I can't hear her.
You want me to play it for you?
What? I'd like to hear her say it's already fallen. And by the way, you know, Alex, anyone could throw a video, the picture behind it, a news person. That could be
Well,
a video
she's saying
screen.
Building 7 has fallen. They put the story out beforehand.
Now, more on the latest building collapse in New York. You might have heard a few moments ago I was talking about the Salomon Brothers building collapsing, and indeed it has. Jane, what more can you tell us about the Salomon Brothers building and its collapse?
Well, only really what you already know. Details are very, very sketchy.
We are getting information now that one of the other buildings, Building 7, in the World Trade Center complex, is on fire and has either collapsed or is collapsing.
It was almost as if it were a planned implosion. It just pancaked.
Well, pancaking almost like a precision implosion.
It's reminiscent of those pictures we've all seen too much on television before, when a building was deliberately destroyed by well-placed dynamite to knock it down.
All non-essential personnel move away from that collapse.
Donald Trump is on the line. I mean, we know him as the man behind lots of real estate in Manhattan. And of course, Donald, I understand you were actually a witness to what happened this morning.
Well, I have a window that looks directly at the World Trade Center, and I saw this huge explosion. I was with a group of people, and I really couldn't even believe it. And even, I think, worse than that, for years I've looked right directly at the building. I'd see the Empire State Building in the foreground and the World Trade Center in the background, and now I'm looking at absolutely nothing. It's just gone. You know, the World Trade Center was always known as a very, very strong building. Don't forget, that took a big bomb in the basement. Now, the basement is the most vulnerable place because that's your foundation. This was an unbelievably powerful building. If you know anything about structure, it was one of the first buildings that was built from the outside. The steel, the reason the World Trade Center had such narrow windows is that in between all the windows, you had the steel on the outside. So you had the steel on the outside of the building. That's why when I first looked, and you had big, heavy I-beams, when I first looked at it, I couldn't believe it because there was a hole in the steel. And this is steel that was, you remember the width of the windows in the World Trade Center, folks. I think you know, if you were ever up there, they were quite narrow. And in between was this heavy steel. I said, how could a plane, even a 767 or 747 or whatever it might have been, how could it possibly go through the steel? I happen to think that they had not only a plane, but they had bombs that exploded almost simultaneously, because I just can't imagine anything being able to go through that wall. Most buildings are built with the steel is on the inside around the elevator shaft. This one was built from the outside, which is the strongest structure you can have, and it was almost just like a can of soup. I just think that it was a plane with more than just fuel. I think it just seemed to me that to do that kind of destruction is even more than a big plane, because you're talking about taking out steel, the heaviest caliber steel that was used on a building. I mean, these buildings were rock solid.
So I said the exact same things back at the time. It was on local news there were bombs in the buildings. And then the media would say, Jones says the fire department blew it up. Or Jones says the military did. Never said that. I said, I saw the news. I heard the news. They said they blew it up. And then you had John O'Neill, the deputy head of the FBI, quit a month before 9/11. And he came out and said, we're going to let al-Qaeda attack us. Al-Qaeda has infiltrated our government. And it's wrong what happened, and we need to expose it. And then he died. His first day at work was 9/11 as the head of security of the World Trade Center. And I've got the footage of the local police saying, get back, they're going to blow it up. Doesn't mean the police are involved. I talked to cops that were there during the 10-second countdown. But I don't just have that. I found the cops who were on PBS getting the countdown for Building 7. And they blew up other buildings too. And all the chaos, they're told, oh, we're going to protect these buildings. It takes days, if not weeks, to wire these buildings. Do I know what happened? No, I don't. Just like President Trump doesn't. I covered it. I was on air. I'm not going to lie to you. Now, Eric Bolling said, hey, show me the clips. Eric, we just showed you the clips. So this is a live show, but later we'll cut this out. We'll archive it to Infowars.com and Newswars.com, to our own video feeds, because we're censored on YouTube. And we will send this out to Eric Bolling. But you aren't banned from YouTube. You can upload this segment to YouTube, and I hope you do. Don't forget Infowars.com/show, where you can bypass the censors and go directly there and subscribe for free to the podcast of the live shows and find the live audio feeds. Look at that. Everybody else is just like yellow or clear. That's because it's been denatured, it's been watered down. We didn't do that. You think I would metaphysically sell you something that is the very best I can get? I'd rather go to hell than do that. I will only give you the maximum best info, the maximum truth, the maximum product, because I want that goodwill. What I do to you, I do to myself. Don't you get the big secret? You ever seen fish oil look like that? No, you never seen that, have you? And this little jewel right here is solid, liquid consciousness. Look it up. Find out how even the FDA and the government admits fish oil is incredible. The number one thing anybody can do for themselves is take good fish oil or krill oil. Just like our information is dynamite, so are our products, InfoWarsStore.com.